The following is a presentation of the Force Center podcast feed.
From the center of the galaxy, this is the Force Center podcast feed, and this particular episode is the Clone Wars Report. I thought that the sound that Ken Knapsack might make with his mouth to introduce the Clone Wars today might be a mirthful Yoda sound. That was wonderful. That was musical, and that was fun. Was that gray Yoda, somewhere between mirthful and dark shadow.
Somewhere between. I don't have a great Yoda impersonation on my belt to pull up, but it's a passable one if I need it. So yeah, it lies somewhere in between.
We all have a passable Yoda impression, and I think we all have to accept that somewhere deep inside us, we have a little dark Yoda that's going to be so much fun to talk about, right?
I mean, that's pretty much what this entire episode's going to be, fighting our little dark Yoda.
This arc is so rich, so fun, and I always forget how wonderful / upsetting billowing shadow golem Yoda is, that it's a delight to rediscover every time. Can't wait to get into it. I'm Joseph Scrimshaw. The person being Yoda for the moment is Ken Knapsack. We're going to dive into this final arc of Season 6 of the Clone Wars. The episodes involved are Season 6, Episode 11, Voices, written by Christian Taylor, directed by Danny Keller. Season 6, Episode 12, Destiny, written again by Christian Taylor, directed by Kyle Dunleavy. And Season 6, Episode 13, Sacrifice, written by Christian Taylor, directed by Stuart Lee. Now, Ken, this is one of the things that I've discovered. I'm sure other people know it, but I personally discovered going through Clone Wars like this is I didn't realize how much this writer, Christian Taylor, wrote of this final season.
Name keeps popping up. I love I love paying attention to that kind of stuff. Easy to overlook. And again, easy to think that Dave Filoni just did it all, which is never a shot at Dave Filoni. It's just kind of a reminder to all of us that there's an entire wonderful team of creators that are behind Clone Wars.
No, and it for me, I would love to hear more about the process. I'm sure there are various behind the scenes things that I haven't seen or read, but from my perspective, it really seems like there's so many big ideas of like we want to wrap up the Clone Wars for now. Here are big ideas that clearly flow from Lucas, Filoni, the trajectory of the Clone Wars, and Christian Taylor appears to be this great hired pen who executed a lot of them for the team. You know,
just there, got the vibe, and just hit a bunch of home runs, as they would say.
Exactly. So any other thoughts about those elements before we dive into the summary?
Sir, I'm going to use some of my words later, and I'll let you get to the summary.
Okay, because I used a lot of words on this summary. Just some of these episodes get so complex that I kind of want to lay it all out for myself and for you. So we can both remember what we're talking about.
Yes, it works like that.
Okay, here we go then. Dark truths. The Jedi have learned that through manipulation of Jedi Knight Sifo Dyas, the Sith Lord Darth Tyrannus, formerly the Jedi Count Dooku, ordered the clone army that currently fights alongside the Jedi. Seeking answers, Venerable Jedi Master Yoda meditates deep into the Force and is shocked to hear the familiar voice of a long-dead Jedi. The spectral voice of Qui-Gon Jinn tells Yoda he is part of the living Force. Shaken, Yoda speaks with Anakin Skywalker about the visions Anakin and Obi-Wan had of Qui-Gon on the mysterious planet of Mortis. Anakin says Obi-Wan believes it wasn't really Qui-Gon, but an illusion pulled from their memories. Yoda then tells the Council he has heard an impossible voice, and all the Masters meditate together for an entire rotation, but find nothing. Fears then abound. Ki-Adi-Mundi suspects the voice is Sith trickery, using Yoda's bond with his former Padawan, Count Dooku. Dr. Rig Nima can find nothing physically wrong with Yoda, but decides to put him in a deprivation tank to stimulate even deeper meditation. In this tank, Qui-Gon speaks to Yoda, insisting he must finish what Qui-Gon could not and journey to Dagobah. Yoda recruits the help of spontaneous rule bender Anakin Skywalker to escape the watchful eye of the Council and Jedi Temple guards. Flying with R2, Yoda arrives on Dagobah. Qui-Gon appears to Yoda as small glowing orbs and leads him to the Dark Tree Cave. There, Yoda has a disturbing vision of Jedi cutting down clones, Darth Sidious murdering Saesee Tiin and Kit Fisto. The apparition of Sidious ignites his crimson blade, saying, "Join me, there is no other way." After facing this dark potential future, Yoda is told an important truth by Qui-Gon. Dark times are ahead and forces of light must remain. Yoda will learn to manifest his consciousness after death so he may commune with the living. To begin his trials, Yoda travels to another mysterious planet that is one of the origins of all life in the galaxy, passing through a gas cloud nebula, descending through pure energy and into a secret sanctum. Yoda meets the Force priestesses, 5 ethereal beings wearing only robes and masks that express their core emotion: sadness, confusion, anger, joy, and serenity. Yoda assures the priestesses he has come with only good intention and light in his heart. The Force priestesses agree to train Yoda in order to retain his consciousness within the living Force. At the moment of his death, he must know himself, face his fear, and let go. Yoda claims to have already defeated his weaknesses, but Serenity balks and sends Yoda leaping on mystical mushroom islands to a cloud of darkness. Inside, Yoda is attacked by a shadowy creature who mocks Yoda for spending his days in the decadence of war. Yoda and the shadow monster engage in brutal battle. Yoda recognizes the creature as his shadow self. He acknowledges its presence and recommits to not giving the darkness power over him. Yoda realizes his hubris and is then sent to the Valley of Extinction, where he is faced with a test of attachment. He sees dead Jedi scattered on the temple floor. A dying Ahsoka pleads with him. He promised she would be a Jedi, but then he expelled her. Will she still be a part of the Force when she dies? A vision of the Padawan Katuni offers to take Yoda away from all his confusion and pain. She brings him to the temple garden where many Jedi are gathered in peace and joy, including his old Padawan Count Dooku. Yoda resists this fantasy, though, angering Dooku. Yoda remains strong, denying the dark power as a phantom blade slashes down. The priestesses are impressed. Yoda requests to know who they are, to see their faces. Serenity takes off her mask, revealing glowing energy. Then her robes and mask fall to the ground. Yoda realizes the priestesses are dead, yet live between the realms. They are pioneers in the art of retaining your consciousness after death. They instruct Yoda he must face the ultimate seduction on the ancient Sith world of Moraband. R2 pilots Yoda to the horrifying world where Sith visions, warriors and snakes, assault Yoda, saying, "They will know you are here. We will tell them." Yoda is then confronted by a spectral Darth Bane who celebrates his dark triumph in creating the rule of 2. Yoda does not give in to fear or anger and dismisses Bane as an illusion. Force priestesses once again greet Yoda outside of place of absolute darkness where the Sith used to sacrifice Jedi. Inside there, the priestesses have no power, and in this place, the Sith of Yoda's time will find him. They warn Yoda that the Sith's answers will feel real. Sensing Yoda's presence on Moraband, Sidious calls Dooku to Coruscant, and using Dooku's blood and his bond to his former Jedi Master, Sidious performs an ancient Sith ritual to invade Yoda's mind on Moraband. He masquerades as Sifo Dyas, offering Yoda what he wants most, the true identity of the Sith Master. Once again, Yoda refuses, but Sidious strikes back. He drops Yoda into a red-hued dream. Yoda finds himself with the clones and Anakin aboard a Republic gunship on their way to the industrial sector where they believe Dooku is meeting with his secret master. Yoda is intent on ending the war, telling Anakin if the Sith are going to escape, execute them, we must. But Yoda quickly changes his mind when he witnesses Anakin subdue Dooku, only to mercilessly behead him. Yoda chases Sidious, fighting him to a standstill, but Anakin races ahead, eager to attack. The Dark Lord knocks Anakin out and severs the bridge beneath the young Jedi, threatening to kill him. Yoda must choose between fighting Sidious and saving Anakin. Yoda realizes he must stay true to the light side and floats Anakin to safety while enduring hateful blasts of lightning from Sidious. Once Anakin is safe, Yoda declares he is ready to sacrifice everything, hurling his lightsaber at the platform and sending himself and Sidious tumbling into the depths. Yoda pulls the cloak away from Sidious's cackling face, but it is empty. Back in the corporeal world, Sidious tells Dooku they've failed to break Master Yoda. They will have to wait a bit longer to end him and all of the Jedi. Waking from his vision, The Force priestesses tell Yoda his training will continue by communing with Qui-Gon Jinn. Serenity tells him there is another Skywalker as Yoda hears battle sounds and his own voice repeating, another Skywalker. The Jedi Master returns to Coruscant, where he tells Mace and Obi-Wan he no longer believes victory is possible in the Clone Wars, but he has discovered a path unknown to the Sith that may yield a greater victory in time. The end for now.
Take a break, sir. Take a break. Take a sip of water. Well done. Well done. I think that was absolutely needed, too, for what we're about to discuss here. All important details. Wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this arc is such a mix of detailed lore and emotion and great thematic stuff and great Yoda stuff. And lots of hard to say words like Sith and priestesses that you really got to work for.
You all know me. Sometimes my brain puts a letter in front of the other one. I could not say half that summary, so good for you, sir.
Yeah. Well, that was a very complete summary, so let's get into our thoughts about what this whole story means. What was your overall reaction? Did you love this arc, like it, struggle with it? Is this viewing different from previous ones? Where do you go?
Where do I go? Everywhere. I'll start here with the big one. I love my big topic sentences. This is perhaps in that file cabinet marked the heart of Star Wars. Like there's other bits of Star Wars storytelling that are in that cabinet, to be clear, but I absolutely believe with all my heart that this is part of the heart of Star Wars. That is what the big message is here. And there's several messages in these episodes. They are so important. They're dense, but also very simple. And I think that's kind of the genius of Star Wars. So that's kind of the big thing. But I do want to discuss, if I may, Joseph, we're always, this journey of you and I going to the Clone Wars Report has been about going back to episodes, not just to review them, but it kind of forces you just to kind of, hey, how did you first take them in, and where are you viewing it now? And we've had such a wonderful journey here in Force Center, just overall, diving in deep and learning things and continuing to learn things. Going back to when these episodes aired, which was only 2014, I would describe myself then as confused and curious. Especially because this was the lost season, right? So this is like, oh, we are going to get a chance to wrap up the Clone Wars. The thought of Clone Wars saved in season 7 was still 4 years away from being announced, 6 years away or so from actually happening or actually being in our eyes. So I have always said I took in Star Wars differently then than I do now, but I also take it in a lot of the same ways. So back then I was enthralled. I was just so enthralled that these 3 episodes were the end of the Clone Wars as I knew it, or as we all knew it. And what I mean by that is I got the bigger implications. The Force Ghost lore. Oh, some answers to Qui-Gon, why maybe he didn't disappear then. And remember, George always said he was going to answer that at some point, and we kind of got that. And hey, the Clone Wars are coming to an end, and Yoda's having some pretty cool visions, kind of like Mortis, visions of what's to come. And I love that kind of lore or future lore or whatever you want to call that. But I felt I was missing why they chose these 3. And I remember kind of confused, like it ended, and I love that ending. It's a great ending under the tree, and Yoda's talking about it, and the hope of another Skywalker. We know what that means. I felt I was missing why, and now I really, like I said, this is the heart of Star Wars, and I love looking at the core. It's a powerful look at the core of Force philosophy, which just means to me, it's a deeper look at what we're all dealing with inside of us, which is why Star Wars is so powerful. And early Force Center listeners, we reference that thing I used to joke about, or not joke. I used to say, I like it's lore versus war. And I like watching Star. First of all, it almost rhymed, so it almost was catchy. But I like the war, which is still something I enjoy today, meaning I like how and why these wars are fought. I love the military moves and tactics. I love the tech. I love the explosions. And I love knowing what the result is. And these episodes, it's also why I cry every time Apparatus appears. These episodes don't answer that, right? In fact, Yoda says quite the opposite. Yeah, we're probably going to lose. And I think I was like, oh, but why? Don't give up. Like not that I was misinterpreting. It's just I was a little bit of Kiadi-Mundi. Looking at trying to answer questions based out of fear. And all that to say, I still appreciate that and liking war over lore. And that just meant the Jedi stuff, the deeper philosophies and that lore overall, the canon connections. I love all that. So I'll end my opening rant here, Joseph, or opening monologue, but just saying I found myself the last 3 days, I took the most amount of notes I've ever taken for Clone Wars. Just kept writing things down of what these episodes were speaking to me and saying about the larger Star Wars story. And that's why I think these episodes are at the front of that filing cabinet.
Yeah, no, I really agree with a great deal of what you said. I think it's really great to reflect on what resonated with you when you first saw it, and then one starts to resonate when you have the benefit of time and the benefit of really looking at all of the ideas that are being presented in the Clone Wars about this era, but then how also this era, connects to decisions that are being made after it and before it, now even in the High Republic. Definitely for notes and for the power of this episode, I've really I've taken to writing down as I watch, writing down the quotes that I think are like, that's a real linchpin, or that's real important to the rest of Star Wars. And I kind of got to a point of like, should I just download the script somewhere, because I'm writing down almost everything.
Yeah.
And I think that's a function of what's so interesting and unique about these episodes is that I think the way it really landed with me the first time is, this is what George Lucas has promised for years. This is vital information about one of the deepest mysteries and debates and philosophies of Star Wars, which is, what are the Force spirits? As much as we should be able to comprehend something that is ethereal and otherworldly and next plane, what is there to be explained? What is there to be learned? And I think that is in here. There are a lot of just concrete answers, some things that, fans still discuss. Like, I always remember, like, it's just said in these episodes. A lot of the things that I think about in Star Wars, I sometimes like, okay, and I want to make sure that I'm going back to like text to support my perspective. And a lot of that text is in this episode or in this arc. So I think that's really powerful about it. I think it is a really good ending for the Clone Wars. I like the ending for the season 7, but it was a really good ending for its time, that it ends on this hopeful beat. I think it's powerful that it's full circle with the first broadcast episode, because the first broadcast episode, Ambush, is Yoda kind of going into war, which he knew was not a great thing, but he's going into it with okay, let's do this. Let's figure it out. I will literally stand against the dark side by defeating Asajj Ventress and showing that the dark side isn't as powerful, and I will offer a better deal, and we'll make a treaty with the Toydarians, and I'll show the clones respect. And it's like okay, I can still be a Jedi while doing this. And then we come full circle to this other Yoda arc, where I feel like this arc is many things, but one of the things it is the story of Yoda reconnecting with the basic truths of the light side, the basic truths of himself, and in that reconnection going, the war was wrong. It was always wrong. I shouldn't have done it.
It's like it's a business retreat. And he came a business retreat. He came back. He came down the mountain full of fire, full of a deeper understanding. And I think that's a great point. I hadn't thought about in those terms of the bookend of Ambush to this. So that's a great point.
There's a lot of bookends and a lot of mirrors, and not just in the visions, but like just beats throughout. I think the other thing that about this arc is, even though it's got this bittersweet epiphany that even if we technically win, what all have we lost? Even if that's on the table of like, a technical military victory is maybe still on the table, but but at what cost? What was this war for? Why were we fighting in the first place? All that. So it's got this bittersweet feeling to it, but at the same time, I just this time watching them was just like a balm. It was like a healing feeling, because Yoda has been on the wrong path and he's correcting himself. Final big picture thing that I wanted to say is, it is really just fun to spend this much time with Yoda. Yoda's always fun when he is stern and concerned and meditating, and when he's silly and mirthful, he's fun. But those are all moments that we mostly see Yoda in control. And to see Yoda feel doubt, fear, childlike joy. I love the shot where he's on his back and it looks like he just had a bad trip and he doesn't know what the bleep's going on. To get to just spend this time with Yoda and get to see him stretch into all these emotions that we don't really get to see Yoda have as often, because he's not challenged as much.
Yeah, no, they're even to the point when we'll discuss, but some of the other Jedi going, this is weird, right? Yoda usually has it all together. Right? What's going on here? It's almost like when you run into your third grade teacher at the grocery store, like, whoa, they eat food. Whoa.
Yeah, that's not right. That's not right. And those are just our big picture thoughts. So we're going to dive a little deeper here. As always, we want to talk about the morals of the episode. 3 episodes, 3 morals. The first is madness can sometimes be the path to truth. The second moral is death is just the beginning. And the final is facing all that you fear will free you from yourself. All good things to tell little kids playing baseball, right, Ken, former baseball coach?
It is. Absolutely. I've said death is just the beginning many times after a kid struck out and had to get them ready for the next inning. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Coming home is kind of a form of dying and then being reborn, right, when you touch home base.
Exactly. Totally is. Yeah. I pulled a kid aside. Coach Cat, I struck out. Death is just the beginning.
You've had a lot of great insights. We poke fun because the context is sometimes funny, but it makes perfect sense. These morals are about mentorship, and coaching is a form of mentorship. So it makes sense that you've always gone to that. Do any of these speak to you for your own personal journey or your journey in mentoring others?
Yeah, so initially, I'm drawn to facing all that you fear will free you from yourself, and that makes a lot of sense. But then I kept going back to this idea of madness can sometimes be the path to truth, and what that means, and to use the word madness, and that to me, this is my interpretation of it. Just madness kind of implies becoming loose from your moorings. It makes me think of that UK phrase, he's lost the plot, right? He's just gonna, and there's negative connotations to all that, right? He's gone mad. But in this context, it's just, to me, it's when you're running into a creative roadblock, or just maybe your life is in the doldrums and you're trying to break free. It takes a little bit of madness to kind of break free from that, and then you can kind of just come free and clear from what you are, what you know. Just kind of shake yourself loose from the shore a little bit. That's why I use that term, moorings. Of just like, sometimes you're so tied to it, and you just gotta break free. You've got to break free, and madness will help that. And just using that term, that's the way I interpret it. Of what, because I try to apply it to Yoda, right? It isn't like he's gone mad. Other people around him might think that, but maybe he's seeing clear for the first time in his life, all 900 years or so. And it took a little bit of madness to make that happen. There was just something about that I was drawn to.
Yeah. I love that this is kind of this hyperbolic way to state it. It does reflect the fact that in this episode, they're worried that there is something actually wrong with Yoda. Yeah. Like, did he feel stress? But I totally agree with everything you're saying. It feels almost like it should be in quotation marks, like, what appears to be madness can be the path to truth, right? Because it's just about questioning something that is so fundamental. Unmoored is a good way to say it. There's been that viral video going around social media of the house falling off its stilts and floating into the ocean. And it's like that, of like this fundamental pillar that we've built in understanding on, questioning that feels like madness, but maybe it isn't,
Yeah, and maybe it isn't. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, death is just the beginning. That's pretty clear about various Star Wars philosophies of cycles of rebirth, and other places besides Star Wars. The facing all that you fear will free you from yourself. That is, that's just something I'm thinking about a lot in my own life. That hit me hard because we're still in this pandemic, but it a time of uncertainties, and some things were changes that were made to happen. And just for myself, I have all these choices in front of myself, and Star Wars is helping me a lot, going like, is this something that I'm afraid to let go of because it's something I've always done, or a way I've always done things, and should I allow myself to evolve? That one really hit me.
That's great. Yeah, fear standing in front of you on that path. Great way to look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on from the morals, let's dive into the real big picture stuff, the big themes, what ideas are at stake in this episode. I have a couple thoughts. I'm sure we're going to overlap, but I'm really curious to see how you framed the big picture ideas of this episode.
Let me tell you, I make reference in this section of our podcast, wishing we had the Vegas sports book of just everything's up there on the wall, and we can start choosing and betting and drafting what we want to talk about. This is where I started. Yeah, I had to contain myself, so here we go. In no particular order, I was really drawn to this idea of overcoming what seems to be impossible, which that starts from Yoda going, "Whoa, I'm hearing voices, man." Something that Qui-Gon, that's impossible. That word impossible comes up a lot, often with Kiadi Mundi. Poor Kiadi, and I like Kiadi. You already mentioned dark truths, so this facing the truth, finding the truth. I'm always drawn to that, and breaking down a lot of discussions on like the Game of Thrones side of things, which is usually a darker, grayer world. A lot of times, characters have to face these really hard truths that change their perspectives, not just in the moment, but how they were brought up, what they led to believe for a long time. And so that's a lot about Yoda. Has many, we'll get into some detailed quotes, I'm sure, but just like, yeah, that's what we used to know, or that's what we learned and know to this point. There's still more to learn, maybe. And I think a lot of that is where I was drawn to the idea of facing and finding the truth. And then this idea of also admitting when you do not know, which can kind of be like overcoming a certain kind of fear, right? Mm-hmm. Like ignorance is a big problem in a lot of things, and just not ignorance in just an insulting way, but just like, I wish we all could just say, I don't know a lot more, especially on Twitter. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a lot of what Star Wars can be getting to with these big ideas of, I kind of thought of the section you're talking about here of the idea of rigidity versus the flowing in the organic, that constant Star Wars theme of, are you kind of trapped in a sort of mechanical red tape bureaucratic lockstep, this is the way it always is, versus, well, let's question that, or let's try something that we never did before, or let's listen, this is what my eyes tell me because they're trained to see this way, but what does my gut tell me, what do my feelings tell me? All those big ideas, I feel like we're really here. And, not to spiral off into the real world too much, but I think that what you're talking about, I think the reason that we can't have the wonderful I don't know is because there's so much rigidity that we are supposed to know, that to say I don't know is to expose weakness.
Yes.
And then, we'll have a flashing red spot on us like we're a boss in a video game, and we'll get stabbed there if you say, I don't know. And nobody likes to feel talked down to, right?
No.
But that's such a great way to learn from one another, or to accept the unknown, is to be able to face those fears and feel okay to say, I don't know. Let's find out.
Let's find out. And I love what you're saying too, that rigidity is a great way to look at it, especially in terms of the Jedi Order. Not picking on the Jedi Order here, and I don't want to enter into business speak. You and I are both fascinated. We find business speak comical. We've talked about that. It's also why I love old Kids in the Hall sketches. But I used to always have an old vice president used to come by my office and be like, the thing I never want to hear is that we've always done it like that, which is a very, best practices business brochure type of thing. I admit, but I think it really applies here. Of like the Yoda had that conversation a few times. Just because we've always done it that way doesn't mean we should look at it right here, right now.
Yeah,
you got to look at it differently.
Yeah, and I think there's such a difference between, but we've always done it that way versus, hey, we've tried it lots of ways, and this is why we do it the way we do it. Correct. Because maybe you are right, but by saying it, by phrasing it as, this is why we've always done it this way, it opens up the possibility to question it, right? And I think that's what's so great about the Jedi, is this idea of like, we have learned many truths, but we need to keep questioning them. And sometimes the answer is, wow, we were wrong, or things have evolved and that answer has changed. Or sometimes it's, hey, we looked at it again to make sure that we are where we want to be, and it turns out we agree with the conclusion we've come to in the past. And I think that's both of those are going on in this episode.
100%.
This whole rigidity, being afraid of ignorance thing, I did write down a couple of those quotes that you were talking about. And I think this is an episode where the Jedi are being held to task for being too rigid, and in specific about this idea of how the flow between the living force and the cosmic force, and how life and death work. Anakin says, Well, Coyote Mundi, we'll start with him. He says, the dead are part of the cosmic force and lose their individuality, period. He doesn't say period, but he delivers it, period. That's the way it works, period.
Right.
Anakin, who can be both rigid and flowing, says to Yoda, well, everything we know about the force tells us that an individual retaining their identity after death is impossible. And this great Yoda quote that you were alluding to, everything we know, yes. But what about what we know not? That's the beginning of his adventure, right? To say like, yeah, no, I'm not throwing away my accumulated wisdom, but I am accepting that maybe there is something I don't know. And I think that that idea is highlighted even more in that first episode by first Yoda reaching out to Anakin. Yoda is in this different place where he's like, okay, I need to open my mind and be in a questioning place. And the fact that he reaches out to Anakin and in this moment is seeing Anakin's spontaneity as an asset and not a flaw. And it's kind of fun, cheeky, mirthful Yoda who says, disobeying the council, your expertise is. That is why I ask for your help. It is the spontaneity you find so easily, which others do not. And obviously Anakin's lack of control over his emotions, his impetuousness can be a flaw, but it can also be a strength. And that's it's really showing where Yoda is at, saying like, in this moment, the council is being rigid. So I need to go to somebody who isn't is rigid when it comes to Jedi orthodoxy. Yeah.
I love when I get one right. I love this. I put this idea of Yoda asking Anakin is just a shining example of the strength, but also, man, isn't that a danger? Just percolating inside of him when you don't have that focus there.
Yeah. And then for me, the final big quote that's powerful is when Yoda has been to the cave. He has seen all of his fears come true and is feeling beaten by it a little bit. And Qui-Gon lifts him up by saying, there is always hope, my friend, though it often comes in forms not looked for. The key is knowing how to see it and seizing that opportunity. And I think that's what goes back to, why the moral of that episode is madness can sometimes be the path to the truth. Because it's this idea of like, well, okay, if we stop framing things the way that we are really used to framing them and often does us service, maybe we will see something that we didn't before. And maybe that's where the hope will be in looking at it in a new light.
Yeah. I wish I could have said all this to my boss years ago during those conversations. No, well said. I really love all this stuff. That's why there's just so many big things in here. I think that's almost just the first episode.
That's almost just the first episode. Yeah. I want to make sure that we see everything on your dartboard, but do you mind if I take a shot at the way I try to look at the big picture?
Absolutely. Please do.
Yeah, I think for me, there are so many ideas. When I pulled back and tried to see them simply, there's that part where Yoda goes, the answer was simple.
Yeah.
Simple it was. You said it so well. It's both complex and simple, and that's what makes it so intriguing. But when I really pulled back, I just felt like the big idea of this arc is the light side manual. Like, here's your brochure. What it's really about is Yoda's journey to relearn what he has learned before. A lot of this is presented as him learning new stuff, and it certainly is about the possibility of retaining your consciousness and the possible darkness coming. He does learn new information, but all the trials that he passes are him having to do again what he has done before to reconnect with his deepest truths. And this was what I thought was so fascinating, because so much of the episode or the arc is about, hey, maybe look at it in a different light. And a lot of what he is going through in his journey is, hey, examine and torture your core beliefs about yourself to make sure they still hold up. And he passes the test because they do, because his core beliefs, he reconnects to them.
Yeah, because you're getting this big answer of, well, how do you become Force Ghost, right? This one, we're going to talk about the canon connections, but the answer is everything you're kind of saying. Only when you truly know yourself can you let go of all that. And Yoda just constantly facing what he is, facing the truth, facing things he's buried, facing his hubris, Force Center, ding ding, word of the century. Yeah, I agree with that a lot.
Yeah, I forgot that hubris was so beautifully highlighted. And it's a thing I talk about a lot or think about a lot. And I think I bring up on the podcast that I like this Jedi idea that you're always learning, always questioning. And that's there lots of places. But I like in this episode, it is a concrete statement from the Force Priestess after Yoda's Valley of Extinction trial. She says, "You have done well, but to succeed, your life must be spent learning." And I think that really is that Jedi philosophy of always being open to looking at it in a new way, always being willing to question even your most deeply held beliefs. And if they are fundamentally true, your examination will bear that out, or you'll find something new, and not being afraid to question those beliefs, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's to me that continual learning.
Yeah. I mean, Yoda has a quote early on that's just covers so much. The dangers to not know the truth. The danger.
Yeah.
Love that use.
Yeah. So looking at it from this sort of light side manual, Yoda reconnecting to his core beliefs, it's really interesting to just go through each of his trials and see what he's actually facing. You know, the first thing is I guess the first thing is being able to be open to maybe that is Qui-Gon and maybe I should try this out, right? Because he could give into fear and just go, Ki-Adi-Mundi's right. It's a trick of the Sith. I'm not leaving. So first test is just to leave. But then when he is sent to the cave on Dagobah, and Qui-Gon says, be wary, give power to that which you fear, and it will show itself to you. And it's instructive to see what Yoda fears, which is losing the war and being defeated by the Sith, right? And he sees all that. And I feel like this is the first step is like, it's showing him the mirror, right? The dark side those dark side caves, mirror or tree can only show you what your anxieties are and sort of weaponize them against you.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a great starting point for Yoda, because I don't think he quite realizes how much he's full of anxiety. To me, it goes back to Phantom Menace when Qui-Gon tells Obi-Wan, don't center on your anxieties. And Yoda knows not to center on his anxieties, but doesn't realize that's what he's been doing for quite a while now, that he is just obsessed with, we're going to lose the war, we're going to be defeated by the Sith.
Yeah. I see. There's this thing here, and Kristen Baver referred to the character as the imp of the dark side, which I just love that. We'll call him Dark Yoda. When that whole thing where he's like, Yoda hates me, and how Yoda hates his dark side, which well, sure, we all hate our dark side, but he doesn't want to play with it. Yeah, right. He just wants to. He denies it. He said, I don't recognize you. I don't know who you are. Paraphrasing. And for Yoda to have to face all that. And what you're talking about too, overall, as I step back a little bit from it too, this is this idea of everything that Yoda imparts to Luke on Dagobah. This is kind of you're right. It is the brochure. And this is where he's in the lobby going, oh, that's right. That's right. Wars not make one great.
Yep. Wars are not going to make one great. You're going to go into that tree. It's going to be all about combat, and you're going to see what you get out of that. If that's what your focus is, that's what you'll get, Yeah. And then the imp, the Dark Yoda, the Frank Oz Shadow Golem. I know Tom Kane, apologies, Tom Kane does an amazing job. I just think of Yoda's Frank Oz, but do not want to sell Tom Kane and his amazing work, particularly as Shadow Yoda. It's absolutely chilling and charming and funny. But I feel like what's so great about that next step of his trial is that he is fighting two things, right? He's fighting everything that the dark side is of fear and anger and aggression, but he's also fighting the hubris that he's like, I did that 400 years ago. I beat my dark side just fine, right? And when he comes out, the Force Priestess says, what you face was a reflection of your hubris in the shadow of your soul. So this is really explicitly him re-engaging in an old battle. Like he's kept his dark side in check before, but in his hubris, he didn't realize he needs to acknowledge it repeatedly to keep it at bay. And I think in particular, he didn't realize how much he was feeding it by being a part of the Clone Wars, right? When Dark Yoda dings him by saying he's been living in the decadence of war, of like, you claim you're just saving people and helping people. You claim you don't like this. Little choice by choice isn't great, but it's for the greater good. But what you're really doing is you're indulging me. You're feeding me. You're letting the instinct that combat can fix everything grow in you. and then you're telling yourself, I don't have a dark side. I beat it a long time ago. And this is just like this reset of like, not only do you always have a dark side and you always have to acknowledge it, it's gotten a little stronger in you, Yoda, and you have to have the humility to admit it and face it.
Yeah, it's go with me here. It's almost like maybe you start a Jedi school and your nephew has some problems, and maybe you for a second have an impulse, and then you realize, oh, that problem still exists in me, and you need to go deal with it. I don't know. Maybe there's other parts of Star Wars that this might connect with. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it is a constant battle. Yeah, and I love what he eventually says when he does defeat. At first, he's like, "What is this?" And then, part of me you are, yes, but power over me you have not. Through patience and training, it is I who control you. My dark side you are. Reject you, I do. Reading it plainly, it sounds like a really twisted Valentine's Day card. And then Serenity says to deny it simply gives it power, which I think connects like to Padme's, wisdom to Anakin. To be angry is to be human.
Yeah.
And so often what Star Wars is saying is, anger, fear, the desire to fix things by lashing out, those are natural. And you can't ignore them, and you shouldn't ignore them. But what you should do is master them so you don't act on them and hurt yourself or others.
Yeah, we could make a Disney, Pixar film joke of what's the one Inside Out where there's all the emotions in there. But this episode was really, to me, really leaned hard into this is all real, like you've just said. I love the use of the Padme quote, but the balancing the emotions inside of all of us. And if you don't deny fear, it's real. You have to face it, and that's even what fear is telling Yoda. And I think that's a great. I mean, this is not exactly a kid friendly 3-year-old story here. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. It gets a little dark. I remember I was scared in 2014. But I love that the priestesses represent all things that are real and all things that exist, and they're all here in front of you. And even in you poking you, even a couple times those Force priestesses are like, yeah, right in the face. I love all that.
Even like he'll never succeed.
Never succeed. And all these things come your way, and you're in control of how you respond to it. For the most part in life, maybe some examples here and there, and how anger and fear cloud the true solution. So you have to, you can't deny that. You have to face it.
Yeah, and you have to face that it's really, really hard to do, and that's what's admirable about being a Jedi. It's hard to do, and you got to do it all the time, and you can't like Yoda, like the Force priestesses, they get him afterwards, right? That's what he says. Yeah. Deep in your core, you thought we had nothing to teach you.
Yeah.
And that constant checking in. So he goes through fear, he goes through anger, he goes through hubris, and then in the Valley of Extinction, I think it really is all about attachment, right? And it's an attachment test. He sees the horror of failing the Jedi and having them die. Ahsoka lays a great guilt trip on him, Vision Ahsoka. And then that great temptation to live in a nice fantasy world of a time that has passed where none of the bad things happened. That's one of the great moment when Yoda is following Dooku and he gets that little look on his face like, this is great. I'm just going to have a Jedi party in the garden.
Yeah.
This is all I want. And the strength it takes to go, it's not real. I thought that was really powerful because it was kind of a different look at attachment because it isn't like the Anakin and Padme story, right? Like love of an individual that rots and turns into possession of a person. This was like attachment not only to people, to Dooku, to the Jedi that were alive again, but attachment to a time that has passed. They make such a big deal about like, this is like it was before the war.
Yeah.
It's a real like fantasy about going back to the way things were. And I think it's great that he rejects the attachment, not just to people, but that attachment to this imagined past that was perfect.
Oh, this leads to I'll keep it to Star Wars as best I can. This is one of the things that gets me of just I love the good old days too. Until you really stop and analyze maybe what was going on in the good old days. I'm not talking about specific issues, everything, but even in your own life and everything, it's so easy just to the good old days. This is why, especially over the last couple of years, to be direct about it, I have really gone head to head with people in my life who are afraid of the new normal and afraid of that term. And it's not something that we're all celebrating. it's not that I love, worrying if I'm going to catch a virus everywhere I go or something like that. You know what I mean? And you don't want to give in to worry and fear and all these things, but you want to help others, all these big ideas. But this idea that you cling to the way it was and not deal with what's in front of you. And there's this idea that we've heard so many times from Yoda. Luke's heard it so many times of this idea of keep your mind on what you're doing and where you are, right? Not on the horizon, where you are. And you could be wrapped up in so much fear, clinging to the days of past, not wanting to face what might be a new normal, not wanting to go forward and seek the truth within that. All these kind of big concepts here. And that's, again, why Yoda takes all this. I think what you're talking about, this attachment, sorry as I go off tangent here.
No,
that attachment you're talking about, you're right. It is not the Anakin stuff as direct as it is to me the Luke on Dagobah. I have to help them. They're my friends. Yoda's having those exact visions. He's watching his friends be killed. He's watching them be killed. It directly connects to that. It's directly Yoda speaking from experience in Empire Strikes Back of, destroy everything that they fought for. You might, if you go race off, because he's looking for, I think, binary answers. Yes, no, what do I do? He wants this, the solution. He wants information, and he's kind of, the Jedi is during this era, as we've talked about, they're so about seeking knowledge, but they don't maybe lack some of the wisdoms that they maybe used to have. And that's all tied together for me.
I think that is very well said. And I think that's what's powerful about how Yoda wins this trial, succeeds at this trial, is by calling out a bunch of this sucks. My Jedi friends are dead, and I couldn't stop it. And Dooku, as much as I loved you, kid, you're a traitor. That's reality. And then here's your medal, Yoda. For acknowledging that your friends are dead and your student betrayed you, which is, I think, really connects to this power of you can't begin to even attempt to fix something unless you fully acknowledge it. And to go to your real world example, like, I'd love to pretend a pandemic never happened and a million things associated with it. But denying it and rushing back to something that doesn't exist in the same way is nowhere near as helpful as going, lots of things have changed, lots of bad things have happened. Now where are we going to go from here? Which we can only figure out if we're honest about what here and now is.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then, jumping off from Empire Strikes Back, we go into that final trial, which I think really has some great relationship and tension with Empire Strikes Back when Yoda is sent to Moribond. And I think that is really about, he's defeated fear, he's defeated anger and hubris, he has defeated this specific kind of attachment, and he's dealing with the real world. And now he is sent to resist seduction and master sacrifice. So everything that's happening is about temptation, right? On Moriband, the visions of the dark side are tempting him to take easy answers, right? Or tempting him to give in to fear. But once Sidious really gets involved, know he's there. Basically what happens is Sidious tempts him to follow the quick, easy, satisfying path of violence, of like, come on, Yoda, you're strong. You're just as strong as me. If you chase me, if you commit to the only thing that matters is attacking me, executing me, as Yoda says, escape, not if it comes to it, execute them we must. That's what Sidious is offering, right? And then Yoda, I think this is the moment where Yoda truly comes back to his senses, and where all of the lessons add up to, why am I a Jedi? Why am I a Jedi? Why do I exist? It is to help and to defend. And it's not attachment to Anakin that's making him save Anakin, right? It's not his fear of losing Anakin. It is in the choice between fighting what we hate and saving what we love. Jedi saves what the world love, saves the idea of love. I don't think it's about Yoda's attachment to Anakin. It's about being forced to choose between lashing out at Sidious or saving someone, right? The way Sidious says, let him die and you can stop all that I will do. Very funny delivery. And not only does Yoda choose to save rather than to execute him at all costs, the immediate choice is, I, Yoda, will save others, but I will sacrifice myself. First, he, endures the pain of just letting Sidious blast him while he saves Anakin, and then, does the lightsaber move to drop them both, right? Yeah. In that idea of sacrifice is so powerful, especially when compared to kind of this seduction of give in to what is easiest and what you want most, cut my bleeping head off, or save others and take yourself out of the equation because you're fulfilling who you want to be by helping others.
And jumping to the end of it, I was really struck by he goes through all this, goes through these trials, goes through this really scary vision, which, by the way, I hadn't seen these episodes in a while, and I thought, well, wait a minute, he doesn't face Palpatine until Revenge. Oh, wait, it's a vision. I'm sorry. But the Force priestesses are kind of like, cool, you learned the lesson. So you'll look at it, your part in this is to die and then come to this part of the world, and then that's where the ultimate victory will end up being. And that's why the title of the episode is Sacrifice, right? At least to me. There's three big things here that I'm pulling out of what you're saying here that I connected with here. Just how Yoda along his journey, especially when he gets these visions, he feels he was not strong enough to save people, and he kind of sees that as the only way, and it connects with this idea of fighting. So in his dream and vision, he cannot get the information / the win he wants, the information on who is Sidious, who's the Dark Lord. We got to win the war, which again is not it's not on the surface. It's not a bad idea, Caddy Mundy. It's not a bad idea. But he can't get that by fighting. And then Palpatine kind of throws that thing. I love him saying, you cannot stop what is to come. And that is a weapon he is using. It is it's no different than a lightsaber or the Force lightning. He's saying you cannot stop what is to come, which is instilling this fear in Yoda, and Yoda has to let go of that fear. Maybe I can't stop what is to come in this particular way. The solution will come in another way. And all that's happening in Yoda's head as he's fallen to the ground in his dream, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that what is so powerful about this lesson and how it kind of brings the arc back to the Clone Wars is I feel like it's a mini version of the Clone Wars, right? Like in the big picture, Sidious, along with Dooku / Tyrannus, engineered this whole war, got the Jedi into a position where, well, we don't want to go against the Republic, and they made their decisions, and we're not into, stepping in and, making different decisions for people. We don't grab power. This is a Sith Lord who's in charge of the war, and he is hurting people, so we should kind of defend. And these clones do need someone to lead them. They got all these things to slowly get them into this war, but then they're just locked in, fighting and fighting and fighting, growing the power of the dark side. And I think the fact that Yoda's on this kind of spiritual journey, reconnecting with what it means to be a Jedi, what his core beliefs are, and it's so powerful when he's in Moraband and Sidious is appearing as Sifo Dyas and trying to kind of trick him in an easy way, and Yoda's like, yeah, nah. And then Sidious drops him into a vision that is kind of what waking Yoda's fantasy would have been before this journey, right? An end to the Clone Wars. But look at the way it's portrayed. It's bathed in red. He goes from his spiritual journey into being bathed with red. Here's the clones. Here's Anakin. It's all the march to war, and it's not in a flowing organic place. It's in this dark, rotted, metal, rigid place that this fight is happening. And it's the Clone Wars in this just brutal simplicity where Sidious is trying to get Yoda to just continue fighting at all costs. And in this vision, in this stripped down version of it, Yoda resists the bait. And I think that gives him the clarity to go, this whole thing was, I got pushed into fighting instead of resisting the bait.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, now I wish you had told me this in 2014, where I was again, what I like these episodes. I just was like, what am I missing? Why is this the end? And it is. I think it's 3 episodes of here's what the Clone Wars has done, and here's what we need to learn, and here's how you get through it.
Yeah, yeah, and I love everything you're saying. Is like a lot of what Yoda's goals are of like find out who Sidious is, stop the Sith Lord. Those are all good goals, but it goes back to this Star Wars idea of like what you do matters, but also how you do it and why you do it, right? And what you compromise. And I think that's what it's really about. Is Sidious is trying to make it that you want this, don't you want this, don't you? With Luke and the lightsaber, like don't want something so bad that you're willing to compromise yourself to get it. And I think that's kind of like Yoda. That's what Yoda gets of like, I compromised myself in order to do this. And because of that, I'm not going to get what I want. The Sith Lord got what he want. Everybody's been fighting for years and just increasing the power of the dark side.
Yeah, absolutely playing into the Phantom Menace of it all. I put down this note of, in kind of the theme of the larger story perspective of Star Wars, this idea of the small compromises leading the Jedi toward this big end, which is their end. And this is something we've been dealing with. And again, I always make sure I don't know. I don't know what it is. Maybe it is the baseball coach, me, Joseph, of trying to defend Caddy Monday or Mace, and sometimes some of their approaches. I think they're all asking the good questions. I think they're asking the questions you would naturally want to ask. Or again, even Caddy, I think he's completely answering or coming up with ideas, and everything he's talking about is coming from a place of fear. But I think it's okay. So I always want to clarify that. But I think back in 2014, I'm looking more at Caddy Monday, going, well, maybe he's right. And this is the idea of Star Wars wants you to ask why, and it is not that it's not that Star Wars isn't concerned with the action, the plot, the story, the Clone Wars. It is this big lesson that all leads towards hope. Every property of it, every story leads towards hope, and this one is just this big analysis of that. And another big theme for me of just hope always exists. It always exists, but you have to be open to how to find it.
Yeah. And I think the way it connects to Empire Strikes Back is I think somebody could look at this and go like, well, if Yoda's all about, saving people above all else, why does he not want Luke to go save his friends, But I think it's about manipulation, right? It is about the fact that Han and Leia are being tortured so that Luke can get what he wants. He can run off and he can cut the bad guy's head off.
Yeah.
And Yoda wants him to face Vader. Yoda wants him to stop Vader in some way. That's the whole hope. But it's the when and the how and the why and what's in Luke's heart. Is Luke in balance? Does Luke know what fight he's in? And the reason Yoda doesn't want him to go is because Luke doesn't have clarity. He doesn't understand the fight he's in. He thinks it's a simple black and white. I'm going to kill the bad guy and I'm going to get another medal. And everything will be great, period. And Yoda knows that's not that game because he's lived through that complexity.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, it's pretty vibrant. It's a pretty clear vision at that point of Mace dying and Shakti dying and everyone else. And, and compared to, we got Don McLean singing the "Went to a Jedi party" and Yoda's walking in and everyone's having a sweet old time, everyone was there, and you without a doubt you're going to want to rush off and save your buddy Mace, and that's why again he's speaking from great experience with Luke. And I got to tell this is where it's so complex, but it's so simple, and I love going on this journey. And I say this as a just confession to all of you listening. Of like in 2014, I didn't pick up on much of this connecting to the spirit of the Dagobah scene, the details and the lore. Of course, I did. It's pretty clear there, but it's so simple that it's like, it's Yoda going, man, I just went through this stuff. I'm learning some things and I need to pass this forward. This is why he doesn't tell Luke, oh, wars make everyone great. This is the opposite. And I think that's what's just so valuable. And that's why it's the heart of Star Wars.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, another element I like is it's a great bookend with the beginning of the Clone Wars for Yoda in Attack of the Clones, where he finds himself in another dark, depressing, rigid mechanical type space, fighting Dooku. And Dooku uses the same choice. You can maybe stop the Clone Wars by, cutting my head off, or you can save your friends.
Yeah.
And Yoda makes that choice to preserve life over being desperate. to end the battle. And you can have that discussion of like, should he have let those two die in order to, fulfill this greater purpose? And, I think there's lots of Jedi debate to be had about that. But the feeling I like is like at the beginning of the war, Yoda was clear on, I preserve life. That's my number one thing I do.
Right.
And then there's a sense that if that happened again, would the Yoda that toward the end of the Clone Wars have made that choice, or would he have let his friends die because his need was to cut the head off the beast and end the wars? Was he so compelled by that? And I feel like that's what is like, he's been getting a little darker, right? Like he's saying like, hey, truth came out like this last episode when they're like, hey, we can't tell anybody about the Clone Wars. There's only one way. Like that's Yoda's getting rigid. He's covering things up. And this is that moment where he steps back and goes, I got to stay true to who I was. Yeah. Who I am.
Absolutely. When you're going forward and the path is not clear, you need to use trust over fear. And I love that these episodes pretty plainly state evil is fear.
Yep. Pretty clear about that the Clone Wars were a tool to increase the power of the dark side too. When Yoda comes out of that Dagobah cave and is like, so much evil, and is this going to happen? And Qui-Gon says, it is happening right now. It has always been happening. With each day the Clone Wars wages, evil is growing in its power. That is crystal clear from Qui-Gon Jinn. One other sort of theme subplot that I did really like is you've touched on it with Ki-Adi-Mundi. I think he is consumed with doubt and mistrust, but there is this focus on the connection between Yoda and Dooku, which we don't get much storytelling about, and I really like that it's here. Ki-Adi-Mundi is on that line between being legitimately concerned and just deeply suspicious, right? It's almost a little bit of like Sith scare is passing through the Jedi Temple of like, well, you trained him, so I'm not saying you're dark, but maybe he can get into your mind. Maybe the Sith Lord can get into your mind, and like he's got no evidence. He's just on it,
You're 100% right. Again, sorry, Ki-Adi, I'm so sorry about you and the droid attacking the Wookiees. I'm sorry we're picking on you here, but like, it's that like, well, what are you hiding, Ki-Adi? If the first thing you're going is like, hey, we might have a spy here. Have we considered Yoda? Is the option. If you consider Yoda, which again, on the surface, I'm okay with the question being asked, but Star Wars wants to analyze why is the question being asked, and that's the lesson of Ki-Adi here to me.
Yeah. And then we get, the great beat that we talked about in that second episode where Yoda is almost seduced by a vision of Dooku having not fallen. It's heartbreaking, and you are reminded of their connection. And then, in a way, Ki-Adi-Mundi's paranoia is rewarded by Sidious, because Sidious ultimately can attack Yoda on Moraband because of Yoda's connection to Dooku. He needs his blood, and Sidious says only the presence of someone significant to you would allow you to sense this ripple through time and space. So I guess justice for Ki-Adi.
Yeah, I'll take it. On some level to defend my guy Ki-Adi. I don't really have a connection to Ki-Adi, everyone. Sorry.
No. It's just that he is operating so from fear, and when the thing that he feared actually happening of Sidious, the Sith Lord, using Yoda's connection to Dooku to make Yoda vulnerable, when it does happen, Yoda comes out with flying colors.
Yes.
Yeah. What are any other thoughts you have on themes, on how these reflect the bigger picture of Star Wars? Where else do you go?
Just two little ones. That's all I got, Joseph. Just two little ones on 16 pages of notes. But no, to kind of wrap up some of my bigger thoughts on here of just what's present in these episodes that connects to the larger story of Star Wars is to me this balance of light and dark, of life and death, something that's there. I think the Force priestesses work that way for me in a bit of storytelling device, and just you can kind of see it. It's kind of present there. They're talking about it. The cosmic, the living, these big kind of concepts that it's easy to go, all right, George, what you got up there? What's going on up there in Modesto? What you looking at? What you puffing? He's got a lot of deep thoughts, right? I remember in 2014 going, I don't know. He said midi-chlorians. I'm supposed to not like that. But I love that they talk about it. I love that they're talking about the balance and the connection, the symbiotic nature. I love that they kind of even say, your science calls them midi-chlorians in a way. I'm paraphrasing. But there's kind of this yes, we understand there's a scientific explanation that you've all maybe grabbed onto and taken a big, just a handhold of, but like it's more than that. Is this balance, and that kind of comes through for this, and then this big one, because again, these are the final 3 episodes of Clone Wars at the time. There's just no thoughts in our brains that we'd get more of them, at least in mine. And so if fear, evil is fear, how do you achieve victory for all time? You defeat fear. And that's kind of the big beat at the end of this episode. And I absolutely love that and found some inspiration in that.
Absolutely. I went to the same places. I think that the Force Priestesses are a great different view on this idea that's kind of everywhere in Star Wars about duality, but also about the union between the individual and the group, of celebrating individuality, yet also celebrating symbiosis, that all individuals are connected and therefore one. Just the Force Priestesses themselves, when they obviously are very different. They represent these different states of emotions, which are natural, but need to be mastered. And at one point they come together and say, we are one and one is all. They give lots of great descriptions of how everything works. But in particular, this one jumped out to me of, when a living thing dies, all is removed. Life passes from the living force to the cosmic force and becomes one with it. One powers the other. One is renewed by the other. That is just another image of things being all connected, cyclical, everything helping, everybody helping one another from a certain point of view. So I really loved everything going on with them. And I always forget just the straight up lore that, yes, they are pioneers of this tactic. They are either 5 living beings or 1 living being shattered into their various states. But they are somebody who lived and then died and retains their identity in order to train others.
Yeah, which made me just think, we're talking more canon connections, but I would love to get a story of a prime Jedi sitting on Octo with the Force Priestess.
That would be great. Yeah. And then the other thing, big picture, that I think really attaches to what you're saying, if this is a light side manual and Yoda reconnected to his roots by really pushing past fear, anger, hubris, the dark side of attachment, resisting seduction, mastering sacrifice, a lot of that boils down to what we talk about a lot of choosing hope over fear. And I thought that really came clear in the little bit of kind of Sith lore we get, right? Yeah. That they fear losing their power. They don't want to let go. So the physical world is everything to them.
Yeah.
And if you take one step out from that, what is that? That is a rejection of hope that there could be anything else, right? And that's the journey Yoda's going through. Even the Jedi are like, oh, of course, there is, another realm, but you're never going to be conscious in it.
Yeah.
And all of this for Yoda is hope that there is a path forward. Probably the scariest thing I've ever heard in Star Wars, the thing that I, if I was ever a parent, would be like, I'm going to wait on that, is when the dark side spirits say to Yoda, there is no life after death. Only nothingness awaits you, Jedi. You will die and be nothing. It's so dark. It's so bleak, but it's about fear, right? And when Yoda gives his wonderful little speech at the end, talking about, you kind of never win a war at all. You lose once you start fighting. And he says, yet open to us a path remains that unknown to the Sith is. Through this path, victory we may yet find, not victory in the Clone Wars, but victory for all time. And as you said, I think that's a victory of rejecting fear and focusing on hope, unlike the Sith.
Yeah. And having to do it time and time again. Yeah, I love all the stuff. Love the stuff with Bane. I love that you mentioned about that the line of captivated by the physical realm the Sith are, and how that this idea of Jedi can achieve immortality is what's being put here, which is what the Sith really want, right? But the Jedi achieve it by letting go of all of it. Again, why would you use a Sith Lord in a film to bring it back? There's a lot of debate over it. Cool, great. Beaumont can have some answers for you, whether you want to believe it or not. But it's the why of that moment. It is just saying the Sith never want to let go of this physical world. They can't move on. And I know that is their big fear that they fail to defeat time and time again. And then they want to weaponize that fear.
Yeah, and it is just kind of nihilism. It's just the Sith are just like, no, you can't. No, it doesn't. That's never going to work out.
And look, none of it's easy. None of this is supposed to be easy, right? But I do love that Bane's like, are you afraid of me? No. What? Ah!
That's all I got.
Yeah, that's all I got. I got bluster. I got fear. If you're not buying it, I'm defeated.
And for me, it connects back to like the first film, right? I spent a lot of this toward the end thinking about Darth Vader's confused foot stomping on Obi-Wan's robes of just like,
yeah,
but how can there? But I'm more powerful and I cut him.
Yeah,
what the hell's going on? You know?
Yeah,
yeah. All right, we are gonna. Unless you have any other big thoughts, we're gonna take a break and we'll get into some of the other great details, including a lot of interesting canon and lore stuff. Anything else?
Let's go forward with hope in our eyes.
Excellent. We will be back with hope in a moment. And we are back to continue our discussion of Yoda learning the great secrets. We are going to talk some of the fun action moments, some of the whimsy, weird comedy moments, but also a lot of canon stuff. So, Ken, for action moments, there's kind of some big action. Why don't you just take me through your list all the way, and we'll see if you knock some of mine off.
Yeah, it's short, but it's not that these episodes don't have some action in there. So I'll start with the most important action, and that is Oppo Rancisis walking away. I never had concentrated on him slithering away, just hanging out with Ayla Secura and Illuminari Unduli. It's a great little beat, just hanging out, day at the office. I'm telling y'all, watch it. It is just a bunch of wonderful animation of him walking away. So I'm counting that as action as well.
They made the most out of their Oppo model they got there at the end. Yeah. What else you got?
I actually got to say the group meditation was pretty awesome. It's a great sequence. It's done in the center spire. I love the time pass and the rotation, as you said in the summary. I thought that was a powerful action. It's a big action for the Jedi. We're going to solve this by connection and meditating, ruminating on what the solution might be, or we're trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I love that too, but I put it in my comedy, whimsy, and weirdness because I agree with you. It's action, but it's such a different shot for Star Wars. Like, Star Wars only very rarely has any sort of slow down or speed up, right? So this montage of like they meditated hard for a long time, an entire day.
Yep.
And I thought it was beautiful and great. And then I also had like this picture of like Jedi aides or interns being like, you've got like 18 calls from Bail Organa and none of you are answering.
It's just Bail's like, what's going on? Is anyone here? I think they're in the center spire. We don't bother them when they're in the center.
Did they set their out of office hollow message or
yeah.
What else you got for action?
So I jumping ahead to some of the fighting, just Yoda versus Dark Yoda. Dark Yoda punching Yoda up a few flights of stairs, so to speak, a lot was fun. But then there's a series of punches. It is almost like you're jamming on the X button and trying to get a fighting combo where he's just like, boom, 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 and he's just punching the crap out of Yoda.
He's just working the bag, right?
He's working the bag. And I really, I forgot a lot of those little details of the fight.
Yeah, that was one of mine too. That whole thing is great and powerful, and Yoda's big push away and his ultimate, like, I'm gonna just grab you and dissolve you because I have mastered you. But that was the one I put it because it's so painful. You love Yoda, and the look on his face, I'm like, ooh, that was right in his kidney really look, was.
Yeah, so there's that, and then jumping ahead to the Palpatine Yoda fight, and I'm not joking, folks. Like I it's been a few years, and the sequence starts. And I'm like, wait, no, I can't. Wait a minute. I'm like, I had that like immediate like lore-based YouTuber reaction was like, no, they don't meet till the revenge of my little green friend. They don't fight till death. And then I, of course, felt foolish. But that whole sequence was, you kind of said it too. It is kind of Clone Wars at its purest form. You got clones and the pew 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 and the Sith Lords and the Jedi. It was a pretty good sequence there. So one of the little details I loved, and that they really captured, great little action, just animated Palpatine's lightsaber style really matches what they got going on in Revenge of the Sith. His cuts, the way he pokes and moves, and even I really thought they did a great job with that.
Yeah, no, that was absolutely great. Anything else on your list?
Yoda throwing his saber to cut off the bridge. I love a good saber throw. All right,
right. It was so great, and it was so like casual. It's just like it'll go where it needs to go. Yeah. For me, I in the first cave vision, the Shaak Ti being stabbed is just, if you're into the kind of behind the scenes lore, all the numerous different ways that Shaak Ti has died.
Yes.
Either that's been shot and haven't been canon, or all that stuff. So to see it on screen, the many deaths of Shaak Ti, and it's painful, it's brutal, it's from behind and with a blue blade, and like what?
Yeah.
The montage of brutal Yoda punches from Shadow Yoda is definitely up there. But then in that big final battle, that is like, it's the Clone Wars, but framing it in maybe all of this was the wrong fight, or the wrong way to fight, or fighting for the wrong reasons. It allows it to be just so brutal. Dooku's just multiple Sith lightning strike that takes out all of the clones, including Rex, and they're just on the floor with the lightning still buzzing between them. It is like one of those cool. Oh no, awful.
Yeah. Great. Oh wait, no. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then there's so much going on in that fight. I love the moment where for just a second it's Yoda and Anakin against Sidious, and it's so bittersweet of like, oh, if it could have been,
Yeah.
So that just, it's very short. But because then Sidious gets the drop on him. But one of the moments that I really loved is when Sidious's lightsaber pops up from underneath the railing. It's a total horror movie moment. And then it's just, it's cool action, but it is also like, oh, you thought you beat me, but I'm actually underneath the structure, taking out the support of it. Is like, great visual analogy and way to act it all out. Yeah. And my final one was Yoda throwing his blade. It's so great. And it's like, it's such a great way to follow up. They're like, I am now clear that stopping you is important, but not at the sake of everything. I'm willing to sacrifice myself, though. So you and I are going on a trip.
We're fine. Yeah. Love it.
Let's talk about moments of comedy, whimsy, and weirdness then. Take me through your list.
I only ended up writing on 3, but there was a lot of little beats here. We talked about some of them earlier, but I love up top, after he's already got the vision from Qui-Gon, Yoda being distracted during a business meeting. Just me, every meeting I've ever been in. What? We'll put some guards there. I absolutely loved everything about that.
Yeah, that was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Feel free to continue.
The one with when he seeks out Anakin and as Anakin walks away, I just liked Anakin saying, "I hope I don't regret this," which is one of the only times maybe Anakin's had some pause for some of his impulsive actions. And then final one for the Force Priestesses, one of them says, "Disappoint us not, little green one." I don't know if that's nice, but
yeah. There's a lot of commentary on Yoda being little and green, and I don't know if he always appreciates it. I had a couple more. I'll go through them quickly. I really like right at the beginning. I had forgot that Yoda is in meditation because he's like, I got to get to the bottom of this Sifo Dyas thing. We might not be able to tell the public the truth, but we need to know what's going on. I always forget that when Qui-Gon first comes to him, he also is like, in order to prove I'm real, I'm going to be a friendly poltergeist and shake your furniture.
Yeah.
It's so just like standard friendly ghost,
Yeah.
Or not so friendly ghost.
Yeah, Discovery Plus Ghost Hunters show right there.
It absolutely is.
Or millimeters going off. Yeah.
That would be a great video to cut together. Like, yes, Qui-Gon's powerful. I do like we talked about that, them being like, could this just be Yoda finally feels stress?
Yeah.
And in particular in this Obi-Wan line of, The war has taxed us all to our limit. I suppose we're just surprised that Master Yoda has one.
Yeah. Right. It's so true.
It's so great. It's so great and so understandable. I like how playful Yoda is when he asks for Anakin's help. He starts this conversation by saying, "Friends we are."
Yeah.
And you don't get the vibe that Anakin got to see that side of Yoda. He probably didn't get to train with him like the way a lot of the other kids probably did as much.
Yeah. Again, this reminds me, going back to teacher analogy, when I was my favorite art teacher in high school, I then became his teacher's assistant. And one of the first days he goes, "Hey, let's go in the car. Let's go get some McDonald's." I'm just like, whoa. Like, come on, we're friends now, right? Yeah.
The whole thing does have that vibe of like, oh, okay, this is weird, but okay. All right. Couple things once Yoda goes on his journey. I do just love that shot when he wakes up in the strange realm and he's on his back and his eyes are wide, and it really does look like Yoda is starring in a sequel of The Hangover of like, what happened? Where am I? What did I do last night?
Absolutely love that. Yeah, tiger in the bathroom. Yeah, or a little bit of a Yoda's bad trip. Just some Hendrix starts playing, you know.
Exactly. And then, you can't ignore the weirdness of Shadow Yoda, especially in, 2014, a full decade after Lord of the Rings, after that interpretation of Gollum had become so famous, to have Shadow Yoda speak in that cadence of "Yoda hates me." Yes.
Yeah.
It really cracked me up. I know you're a big Lord of the Rings fan. How do you feel about that?
I think it works because it kind of just conveys kind of the same stuff. It's a purpose. This is fantasy after all. I mean, like I said, even the moral of the second episode, death is just the beginning. I'm like, great. Now I've got to watch Return of the King today. Just to hear some Gandalf talking about the same thing. So I think it connects. I think it's fun. I think it's a tip of the cap, but also an effective use of something.
Yeah. Final one for me. I do like in the fantasy where everything is great, where Obi-Wan says, "Master Dooku is just telling us his story of when he was your Padawan. Really, quite a humorous story." There's just something about it that he's surprised that it's a humorous story. Like, it's pretty good one, Dooku.
Pretty good one.
Not bad at all. All right, we will move on to canon lore in connection to other stories, because there's kind of a lot revealed here. We'll try to keep it moving. I wanted to first talk, Ken, just about all the revelations about Force spirits and how they work. I realize I think a lot about Force spirit stuff. It is peppered throughout other different canon books, Lucas interviews, the things that one can intuit from the main films if they choose to intuit them that way. But this is where a lot of just the hardcore, this is how it works stuff comes from. How did you, I'll go through some of the beats of it, but first I just want to ask you how you feel about that.
I always love, as you all know, if you listen, I love to boil it down just to simple kind of information for me to digest. And it's this idea of, there's a whole path to it, but really it is about letting go on a complete level and letting go of all that you know about yourself. So that's now my answer to how these Jedi are doing it, and how Qui-Gon, someone who is always open to going outside of the margins and seeing if that's the better way without leaving the order, without forsaking all that he feels he is and should be. He just wants to see what is the best way forward. And so that makes sense for me, especially now more than ever, that he would be the one that would kind of break through. Not to take anything away from the Force priestess back in the day there, of course, but that he would be the one, and then it would pass on to Yoda. It makes a lot of sense to me. And so and I want to hear the beats. I want to hear all the details, but at the end of the day, I just go to that. It is about completely letting go. And then once you give up this, let go of this, you're going to move on to what's next.
Yeah, no, I really agree with you. I think that is in some ways, the most important thing to hold on to. I think there are specific ideas and beats within it that I really like, because I think they translate so well to other parts of Star Wars storytelling. I really like the moment where the Serenity Priestess asks Yoda, "Do you come to us with only good intentions in light in your heart?" And he's like, "Of course." Right? Yeah. So this isn't anything you can game This is truly looking at yourself and truly saying,
Mm.
I'm not doing this for myself, right? That's a road to letting go, because it's not like, I am willing to die, but I do want to maintain my identity so I can watch how this next sports game or this next movie turns out, right? It's about, why are you doing this? That's the beginning.
Yes.
Is it with good intentions or with light in your heart? Is it so that you can later help somebody else? Yes. If not, the door's shut.
Yeah, and something you just said there just really, how it isn't. It is not a power move, right? It isn't what you learn. It is what you already are, and maybe learn from there. Maybe I'm not making sense, but it'll be like, I think for years, especially again when Qui-Gon doesn't go, and we were talking about that on chat forums and early days of discussion of Star Wars and Phantom Menace time. And how it was also kind of pointed out as a plot point problem, right? Well, why doesn't Qui-Gon disappear? And George kind of going, hey, I have some thoughts on that. And then, I have thoughts on that. And Aura saying it's going to be in every 8 minute of Star Wars. Don't you worry. And then Attack of the Clones comes and we're all like, what happened? So to get that, because I spent many years wondering, how do you get that power? How do you learn that? How do you get that bonus to your character on your page here? And it is nothing about that. It is the exact opposite is what these episodes are saying.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a couple of the other points where it underlines that is it really underlines that the purpose of seeking this is to commune with the living. Qui-Gon says, you will learn to preserve your life force and so manifest a consciousness which will allow you to commune with the living after death. We'll learn all this as secrets, or we'll be able to, use this power to get them. It is about helping others, to be there for others, which I think is a part of the whole good intentions, light in your heart. Why are you doing this? Being clear on who you are, and letting go of maybe what you need or want. It is about being there for others. And the reason that this is really accelerating now with Qui-Gon looking into it, discovering the Force priestesses, reaching out to Yoda, is really a way to look forward to a dark time and make sure that light survives.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah. And again, why do you come here? Why do you want to use this power? What's it for?
Yeah. And then there's just for me that fun, you get into some of these debates we've always had. I feel like this uses fantasy and spirituality to address the practical issue that Qui-Gon, the Force spirits exist where there's no future or past, and can only show the living where answers will be found, and they are aware of many outcomes and can kind of nudge you toward an outcome, but you still need to choose. Explicitly, Qui-Gon says, I exist where there is no future or past. He explicitly says there can be many outcomes, but your path is clear, Yoda. You have been chosen as I was before you. So he is nudging Yoda towards this, but Yoda still needs to make this choice and do it himself. And I think that really gets into some of the things that over the years, like, well, why doesn't the Force Spirit just show up and kick so-and-so's ass? Or why doesn't the Force Spirit just tell Luke, this is how to solve your problem? Why doesn't Luke just tell Rey, here's exactly how to use these two sabers, or here's exactly what's going to happen? I think it's because they have this entirely different perspective. They are sort of unknowable, but at least part of it is they exist not in a linear way at that point. They are aware of everything that ever has been, could be, might be, see many paths, maybe even sometimes miss a path. And all they can really do is give encouragement and go like, hey, I see you're suffering. I think if you head over there, you might find your way through, but it's your way to find.
Yeah, gosh, I'm thinking of, that great Qui-Gon Obi-Wan short story from a certain point of view, where Qui-Gon is speaking to Obi-Wan knowing that his time is limited here, and he can't really say it. He's not here for that. He just knows his buddy's going to have to discover all this.
Yeah, for himself.
For himself.
Yeah, and to me, that gets into some of the great philosophy they have here about the balance between the cosmic force and the living force. And it's like, to me, it's like a sort of respect for the living force. The people on that plane, they decide. They take the actions. We can help them. We can advise them. but they ultimately act. Final thing for me is that sacrifice is a powerful component. Obviously, to accept your death and to let go is a form of sacrifice of the self, right? I will exist on in this other way, but in service of others. That idea of sacrifice translates to a lot of the literal deaths, the death acts of characters that we've seen become Force spirits. Obi-Wan willingly putting up his blade and sacrificing himself to Vader to help the rest escape. Anakin sacrificing himself to save Luke. Luke pouring all of that energy into the Force projection on Crate to save others. Ben Solo literally giving his life force to Rey. Almost all of their final moments are a form of actual sacrifice. Like that is a part of this last step of letting go.
Yeah, love it. I got nothing to tag on that one there, other than those are wonderful examples. And even Yoda, his I don't know. I think the end of his life has long been a sacrifice about giving so much up to Luke for his fight for the next generation.
Yeah, he has been in service of others, training others for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts about the Force spirits before we move on?
No, it just begs a reexamination constantly again, and the why of it, and the why of Force ghosts, and how some other desired uses of Force ghosts don't align with what I take from the lessons in these episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we wanted to look at some of the places we visit. The Wellspring of Life planet. Qui-Gon says you will travel to one of the origins of all life in the galaxy. The Serenity Priestess tells Yoda that this realm is the birthplace of what your science calls midichlorians, the foundation of what connects the living force with the cosmic force. It is a weird, fun, bizarre world that looks like it is difficult to access. I think the way I see it is, it seems like, well, some things are physically real and some are more a ethereal realm of imagination. Definitely has a connection to Mortis in the design of that one room.
Yeah.
Connection to Dagobah, maybe even to a place like Agent Kloss that is also strong in the Force. What are your reactions to this place? Do you like it? Do you feel like it fits? Where do you go?
I absolutely think I like it now, and maybe struggled with this and things like Mortis early on. Why, I don't know. I love this stuff. I always loved the Mortis arc, but it just I always do that test of, when Luke's walking around on Tatooine and New Hope, you're telling me these planets exist out there? And sometimes those are big leaps to take as a Star Wars fan, especially again. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. I mean, I think I love the fantasy design of them, but yeah, I mean, it is an aesthetic growth, right? To go from Tatooine to Cantina and go like, and now imagine a little green guy just bouncing on mystic mushrooms like he's Mario. That's part of Star Wars too.
Yeah, but and again, New Hope is for my generation and for so many others, it establishes this really grimy, dirty, lived-in world in which our story starts to take place and play out from, and so this goes into something else that goes into the space whales of it all, even the puffer pigs, all these things I've joked or had serious issues with in the past, and now I just kind of see it all a little differently, and I think in a lot of ways I'm R2 in this arc, kind of just at a ship going, what is this? Where am I? I'll just stay here. Okay.
Yeah, I can't. My sensors are useless here because half of it's real, half of it just grew, then it died, then that. Oh, that's a place of imagination. Oh no, that's okay. All right.
Yep. What's happening?
I'll pick you up when you're done, Yoda.
Yeah, and all this even includes, World Between Worlds, Loth Wolves. Yeah, there's bigger things at play that are just kind of fun. And I know you and I love talking, and you love celebrating kind of the wild and weird of Star Wars. And I think I've come along in that journey much more than I did in the past. And so I didn't. I think I always I was always kind of confused and intrigued by these episodes and these locations, and was kind of like, well, I don't have to deal with it again. I can just go fight on Hoth.
Yeah. I think I really like the way that that specific kind of aesthetic was expanded in the Clone Wars between Mortis and the look of this wellspring place, and then the world between worlds, and it kind of established a little bit of a visual language, many different elements of a visual language for these places that are intersections between the real corporeal dirty world of Tatooine and the snow of Hoth with these places that kind of verge into they are cosmic, they are partially real, but they are much more of a luminous space than this crude matter space.
Yeah. That works for me.
Moving on, then, we go to a place that is real and scary, Moraband. Of course, it was introduced in EU Comics as Korriban, the public homeworld of the Sith. Lucas changed the name, wanted to use Korriban, but changed the name. And then in the trivia gallery, clarified that Korriban was maybe its ancient name. Certainly a planet this old must have gone by many names. I believe the trivia gallery says something along those lines. So, what do you think of the planet Moraband, and how do you feel about the great, the classic George Lucas? Yeah, I'm gonna change that.
Well, so if I remember that I had a friend who was really upset back then when that this change happened. But it's like, because again, Clone Wars, this is in the Disney era technically, when these episodes are released. So I've loved it because I think part of the reason I heard, maybe this is not fact, but that George was like, Korriban, too close to Coruscant. Let's change it up again. Go to Moraband. But now I get Malachor and Moraband confused all the time. So I'm happy with it. I love it. And look, again, if you want to tip your cap to Legends, you can always have fun with that. Hey, different name in the stories. Used to be known as this. They had a rebranding. They got hired a new PR person. They changed things. I can totally live with those headcanons. I do love the world. I am fascinated by some of that stuff. Not that I'm fascinated in Sith lore and trying to learn more about Sith, but just it is the big evil in Star Wars, and that they would have these lands and these the evil that lives on them there. I think it's needed in Star Wars. It is also why I love Exegol. I really do love Exegol. I love the look. I love the visual of it. I love the going into the pit of Hades itself. It all kind of works for me and in line with this.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with so much of that. I'm really glad they had a different name for Exegol. That wasn't an M, root word of death, Moraband, Malachor. So yeah, you even had to stop and think about it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I like the idea that connects all of them, that, these worlds is rot. And I like what I know of Moraband. I know a little bit of the EU. I'm not a super expert, but I do like that it is this place where a lot of the wars were fought and it's ravaged by all this activity. And I remember in 2014 thinking one of the coolest things is the idea of this Valley of the Sith Lords. So many things in fantasy and adventure storytelling play on, Egyptian motifs, and this is not directly Egyptian, but certainly that name of Valley of the, is really powerful and really interesting, particularly when, from what I know, again, not an expert, a lot of the Egyptian philosophy was about preparation to make a journey to another world. So that I have this Sith story of like, we don't believe in that. In fact, if anybody comes to visit our tombs, we'll yell at them that there's nothing.
Yeah.
But we're still so egocentric that we must build monuments to ourselves.
I love that.
Yeah. And what is your take then that, Darth Bane is very clearly a vision, but the other snakes in Warriors whisper that we're going to tell them, meaning Dooku, and he does seem to feel it, Dooku and Sidious. Right. What do you interpret that? What is Yoda experiencing there? Is that a vision of his own mind? Or do you think that without actually having, like, Bane himself has not survived, but do you feel like it is haunted in some way by the accumulated hate and anger and fear of the Sith?
Yeah. Those kind of energies lingering there. Yeah, this idea of Sith haunting, something you and I have explored here, and Jennifer back in the day, especially when there was rumors of Palpatine surviving. Yeah, I think that kind of works for me. And what is lingering there, what is left there, there's the hate, the suffering, the fear, and the idea that they can't let go, that they are not there themselves, but obsessed with the physical realm as they are, that they would still be around there. And that there would be a connection to Palpatine and Dooku, that they would get the Spidey senses, right? The Dooku's at his training, his combat training outfit, handling some other business. He kind of gets the alert. Palpatine gets the alert as well. I like that. I like that the Sith are not connected in the way the Jedi are, but it is they can feed off those energies.
Yeah, that they can feel this disruption of somebody like Yoda. clearing out some of the
Right.
cobwebs of fear. Like, if they're pulling on the dark side and they're pulling on the pain and anger of the dark side, and then you get this big, dollop of light.
Yeah.
It would be like, hey, whoa, who's disrupting our wellspring of hate?
Yeah. It's not Afra coming in to collect a relic, and love Afra, and that's not a slight, but it isn't just someone swinging on through. It's Yoda.
Yeah, it's not their perimeter alarms. It's their the light side senses. Yeah, I really like that idea of haunting. I like the Darth Momin story with the mask. I like the idea of clinging to a specific object and trying to get what you want by yelling at people. So obviously it's not Darth Bane. Yoda says that clearly, but I like the idea that this spirit of accumulated hate and anger is clinging to this place and leaps out at anybody who comes.
Yeah, voiced by Mark Hamill himself, right? Great little pull. Yep. I love that.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. Let's go to Dagobah. Qui-Gon calls it one of the purest places in the galaxy. We got, I think another thing that I thought about when this episode came out a lot is like, it really makes sense that Yoda's already been to Dagobah, that would be an idea of where he could go. But even back then I was like, okay, so R2 was there.
Yeah.
That does make me reinterpret some things.
I mean,
how do you feel about it?
I mean, the show is it's not shy, right? It is in R5. It isn't anyone else. And I kind of like that. I've always had that, and we've joked about it here, but the headcanon idea of R2 and Empire Strikes Back, the reason he's just so upset, he's just like, dude, you know me. Like, what are you doing? And I just kind of I've lived in that world with it for a while, and that R2 is the droid that knew too much and kept his mouth shut. Right? I really have a lot of respect for the hero of the galaxy that Yoda is. So I like that these episodes just was like, yeah, he is there. Now, does he travel everywhere? Does he know where the hut ends up being or anything? He kind of hangs out there if you want to kind of cling to that, if that works for you as well. But I kind of like it. I kind of like that R2 has seen all of this and knows all of this.
Yeah, I think it works for me because it just makes it really like Yoda's playing a game with him, right? When they're fighting over the candle.
Yeah.
That R2 must be beeping like, okay, all right. You're not gonna acknowledge me. All right. I also just like R2 going on this whole journey because I think it is another moment of like showing, Yoda making that connection to Anakin and seeing the value in R2. He's very kind to him and refers to him as friend and agrees with him that Moorband is scary. But it's also like that great, like R2's been there for all the big moments. It feels like that classic kind of original Lucas idea that 3PO and R2 are telling the story, and they're the ones who are, the quote unquote unimportant characters who witness everything. And this is such a big moment, and that R2 kind of witnesses it. But the episodes are really well constructed to be like, yeah, and there's some stuff that R2's he doesn't know what the hell's going on. He can't sense anything. Yoda's coming out beat up, and R2's like, there was a plant in there with you. What the hell happened, man?
Yeah, no, I can I like that as well. Of just R2 not fully understanding this. So even if he returns to Dagobah, he's like, man, there's some weird bleep that happens there. I don't understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. I did also write down that Ki-Adi-Mundi did get one right. In the council meeting at the beginning, he argues that Dooku is merely a Sith apprentice, not the Sith Lord. And Mace is like, that remains unclear. So score one for Ki-Adi.
See, there you go. There you go. Justice for old Mundi there.
Ki-Adi-Mundi on the board. Excellent. Yoda talks about, Yoda is told that he must retain his identity to train the chosen one. Qui-Gon says in general that we need people, we need the few Jedi so that the light remains, and he's been chosen like Qui-Gon. But the Force Priestess says he is to teach the one who will save the universe from a great imbalance. For this, the great gift will be his. So it's not explicitly saying he has to train Jedi. He has to train the one who's going to save the great imbalance after he dies, but that this act was going to cause Yoda to get this great gift. How do you pull all that apart?
Hit me with what you think, and I'm going to build from there. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's about the spirit. I think this is a not worrying about the real technicality of like, but wait, Yoda did most of his training with Luke while he was still alive. So did he need to? I think for me, it is wrong to be focused on that. I think the idea is that a handful of Jedi must survive within the Force so that they can be there for the next generation, particularly in this dark time, particularly for Luke. But I like this idea that in the nether realms of the Force, some things are clear, but not every little thing is clear. Everything that could ever happen, they're seeing too. So they're seeing maybe Yoda dies earlier. They're seeing what does happen, that Yoda passes on this knowledge to Obi-Wan so that Obi-Wan really can be there for Luke. And it starts this chain.
Yeah.
That's the way I really like to think about it, is like you're the first in a very small group of people who are going to learn this skill so they can be here for Luke.
Yeah, it's a chain of training custody, which is so funny. We were talking about Filoni and him taking that train on out to Grogu, right?
Yeah,
and some of the things. Yeah, no, because again, the why of it is the generational shift, generational change, and how Yoda's been spending a lot of time trying to seek answers, or the Jedi Order trying to seek answers of what's right in front of them, and this idea of it's not what you think all the time. And then it goes back to even coaching sports, coaching baseball. It's not only you got to pass on what you've learned. So, I think that it all leading towards this idea of total victory.
Yeah, and this one made me sit up on my couch when I was watching it in 2014. Of that idea of saying that Luke is maybe the one who will save the universe from a great imbalance, and opening up that discussion of that maybe Luke and Anakin are both the chosen ones, or they are the chosen one together, is really fun. Want to be sure to touch on that whole Jedi Temple at peace vision. That was just a great list of Jedi there. I got to see Quinlan Voss, Ahsoka again, Terrace Anube talking to Gungi. Come on.
Yep.
And then the Jedi who have betrayed, like Dooku and Barriss-Offee, and the Jedi who have died recently, relatively recently in the story of the Clone Wars animated series, Adi Gallia and Tiplar. I thought that was pretty great to see those characters. It was one of the other things that made it feel like a summation of the Clone Wars.
Yeah, and also pulled on my heartstrings too when Yoda's like, "Nah, you died." Running down the list, kind of sad.
Yeah, and great to see all those gathering Jedi younglings again. And then this beast that Dooku mentions in his story, which is actually quite humorous, then Terran Tataka.
Yeah.
I think I said, I can't remember how to say that unless I immediately listen to Dooku saying it, and then I can try to say it correctly. That is from the Knights of the Old Republic video game. So some more celebration of the EU.
Yeah.
There are many other just kind of repeated or mirrored moments or calls to the future. Anything else you wanted to discuss?
Yeah, the couple things I put down here. We mentioned a lot of the midichlorian talks, which remember was you hear that word, woo, you're going to have reactions. But I love, again, the use of that there. Your science calls it this, but here's what it is. I love that Yoda asks Anakin about Mortis. And Anakin obviously hasn't retained his visions from there, but he happened to be there. Ahsoka and Obi-Wan were there. There's even a note in the trivia gallery, the episode of, don't worry, they filed a report. They had a debriefing. But I like that it's there. I like that exists, that it's even though that they don't fully understand what happened there and where that even is, whatever you want to say. I like that it's something, an experience that's retained by Anakin, even though he doesn't know all the details.
Yeah, and it is something else for the Jedi to know, to mull over. It's really fun to think of Luke finding some of Yoda's notes on that one.
Yeah. Look, the fact that it exists, who knows if we'll ever get there again? I don't know. Will Ahsoka end up there? Possibly, maybe. I don't know. We'll find out. And if we don't ever spend time there again, I'll be fine. But I've got to imagine the Jedi. How could you? Yes, you got the war. You got important things in front of you. This I get. But I would want to get back there and figure that one out. Wait a minute. There's 3 beans over there keeping all this in balance. Now there's like none. Wait, what's going on? Like, I'd want to get back there. Yeah.
They claimed they were helping to hold things in balance, and things aren't going great now. Is there anything to this?
Yeah. What do we do? One of the other ones, it's maybe wouldn't jump out as a canon connection. Anytime Yoda's theme is used, it is Big canon connection to me. It is the sound of enlightenment, as we've talked about here. It's a sound of comfort and home and learning and all these kind of wonderful things. It's a sound of hope. It's become over the years one of my favorite pieces of music. John Williams, without a doubt, at his best there. But I love the use of it here, and I love because this is, like you said, it's such a Yoda-centered arc. It's one of the only times we might really feel that we could get to know the real Yoda. You pointed that out early on, and that kind of jumped out to me. And so when you hear the music, and then you go back to when you first heard it, the Dagobah sequence, everything in Empire, such an important part of the larger Star Wars story that Dagobah stuff is. So love just hearing the music of Yoda's theme.
It's so powerful after a lot of rough episodes in the Clone Wars of Yoda himself being in a dark and shadowy place. And then to hear that music playing when he's in this flowing, organic place that's full of life, following the beautiful floating orbs in that music of peace and enlightenment and purpose playing, it's really beautiful.
Anytime the music comes in, I always think of The Last Jedi moment. Yes, Yoda's there, but anytime the music comes in, it provides all those things that you're talking about, the comfort, home, enlightenment, purpose. It's absolutely the sound of that music, that song.
Yeah, so good. So good. Anything else?
We talked a lot. I don't want to spend too much time, but just disconnecting the brochure that Yoda's picking up and then passing on to Luke. So even any idea that you've heard there, wars not make one great. Your weapons, you do not need them. Yoda at one point basically says that to R2. Then later on, kind of has a lightsaber with him, maybe using it to illuminate things as a flashlight. At one point, I was kind of breaking it down beat by beat, but I really love that. It makes a lot of sense. We're joking, but the word hubris. That's all the reason we always talk about it here. One of the reasons for me, at least, unfortunately, I just absolutely always loved that word outside of Star Wars. It's been one of my favorite words. But I just love the use of it, and it runs deep. And I'm not saying that Rian Johnson and it was looking at these and going, "Oh, I need to put that word in there so it connects." But it's just part of the larger Star Wars story. It's part of the Jedi's fall. So it's a key word, and I love anytime it shows up.
I have always loved it. Had it in lots of comedy sketches and jokes. It's a fun word. It's a fun idea. That idea that you would be really quite good at what you do and confident, and then step over that line from talent, skill, knowledge, confidence into being so full of yourself that you trip over your own feet, that you trip over your own accomplishments. And it makes so much sense for the Jedi that is a great danger for them of like, we have done so much. We've worked so hard. We've faced everything. We must be great, right? Cool. Yeah. See you later. Meeting's over. We're great. That's hubris, right? And that it fits so perfectly for what Yoda's going through here and what Luke is mad at himself for. Of like, I became overconfident and I made mistakes because of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So was there anything that you disliked or questioned in this arc?
Back then, there was a lot of things I questioned, and then I still love questioning, and I love those little moments where I'm like, I don't know if I fully understand the answer here. Let's dive in a little bit more. This episode is full of so much in terms of just the delivery, the execution of it. It's really dense. It could be confusing. I wouldn't necessarily point new Clone Wars fans to these episodes right away. Work up to it. So, I really love where they ended up. These episodes ended up sitting and what they accomplished.
Yeah, same thing for me. I really don't have any criticisms for myself. It is, in some ways, a perfect summation of the Clone Wars. I'm glad that season 7 exists, and I'm glad that it gets sort of reframed to see the characters that we were introduced to in the Clone Wars of Rex and the clones as individuals, and Ahsoka, and reframes it as they are our main guides to this story ultimately. But there's so much here, from the aesthetic to wrestling with what were the Clone Wars, what was the mistake of getting involved. There's so much here to enjoy. It's got the whole why not spirit of like, look, it's Star Wars, and there's some things that really feel like Star Wars, and there's some things that like, well, let's play an experiment, and then they'll become part of Star Wars too. There's that spirit throughout this. So I think I just love it because after the darkness of the other parts of this season, it feels like a balm on the soul.
Yeah.
To see Yoda go, all right, I'm going to face the darkness and I'm going to figure this out. I love his journey through the light side manual, the light side brochure. And aesthetically, it's just fun. Every world is bonkers and interesting, and the fights are scary and weird, and the whole thing is just really fun to watch. I think my opinion of this one, my love of this one, really, really increased with this viewing.
Yeah, same. Clearly. And I'm rambling so many times during this episode because I just almost I went to bed last night. I did my notes yesterday before we recorded, and I just was like, so much to learn from these episodes, which might be, I wouldn't even put this in question, but a lot of the things we're talking about, when you're talking about the summary of the Clone Wars and lessons we've learned, and they chose to do it in this mystical, magical fantasy way. This is Star Wars at its real fantasy core here, right? I sometimes I wish, and I think maybe season 7, and the answers are there. Sometimes I wish the actual lessons could be delivered really just straight on the plate. Here's what it is. And I'm not saying it needs to be in these episodes. And I'm only just saying it to sometimes I just want to be able to point some folks who hey, might have these wonderful, actual, legit questions. They're not trying to tear apart anything. Just go, hey, here's some of the lessons learned. Here's where it is. Where a lot of these episodes, this one's it's so different in so many ways. Even though I think it represents the heart of Star Wars, it's so different. I think some of the messages can get lost if you're just swinging through, like I was in 2014.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think I feel like this is an exercise in, okay, we want to walk Yoda through who he really wants to be as a Jedi, and what is really the philosophy that he's trying to impart to Luke. Now, how can we turn that into concrete action, things he has to face, things he can physically defeat or walk away from and deny. In each beat is quite clear, and this arc does contain, if you want to have conversations with fellow fans, I am really amazed. And that's why I wrote down so many quotes. There are a lot of quotes where Qui-Gon just said why the Clone Wars are bad.
Yeah.
He said it.
And I keep going.
Listen to the mystical voice on Dagobah. He said it.
Voice. Yeah. And look, Yoda is and you're dealing with such big things here. How do you retain your identity after death? And why does Obi-Wan disappear? Qui-Gon doesn't. These are big questions. These are lore questions. So I understand. I don't fault anyone. Again, I'm really confessing that in 2014, it to me, disappearing into the Force is a power that you add to your resume. And here these episodes are saying not. So you engage with them as you want and when you want. But luckily for us, Star Wars doesn't change. We grow. What I mean by that, where it's the core of Star Wars is there and it finds you when you need to have it be discovered in your own life. So that's all. I'm not suggesting that I would want an episode where it's like a bunch of clone troopers hanging around, drinking a beer. So what did we learn? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying sometimes it can be missed. And I've had such a good time with these 3 episodes. Going back into them and seeing things that were there, seeing things that, again, that I said up top, like I get what the visions mean, but the big why behind it all, that's what made these episodes so memorable. I'm so excited. I want everyone to experience that.
Yeah. I really like what you're saying, because I think for me, what it is the why, the lessons. Yeah. They're crisp. If you look at each individual lesson, you can take what's being said as a parable, right?
Right.
About the why. And then also, I think the episodes are making an effort to be like, we don't want this to feel like a video game with a drop-down explanation of exactly how, Force spirits work. We want to make this feel cosmic, spiritual. We want it to be open to a certain amount of interpretation. So the lessons are concrete, and the lore has some things that are kind of concrete, but still allowing itself to be larger than it is. Yeah. Larger than, the sum of its parts, and be up for interpretation.
Yeah. No, yep. End on that thought for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I am going to ask you, I know we're both trying to wrap up in a reasonable amount of time, but I do want to ask you one other question in the spirit of Jedi hubris and question yourself. We both love this arc. Do you feel it lines up with Revenge of the Sith? How do you square that? That the fact that Yoda is indeed continuing to fight the battle, hoping to win the war, hoping to physically defeat Sidious.
It lines up like this. This is maybe in my defense of folks like Mace and Kiadi who maybe have the right ideas, but maybe go about them in the wrong way. I still think this is not. It's that conversation about destiny just brings you to the choices. There are many ways to get to this, and you cannot. Yoda, even despite going on this trip, isn't going to come back and say, "All right, we all got to lay down our sabers and die."
Right.
You can't do that because there's still people that need help and there's still possibilities. And these episodes do address you control how you respond to things. And so if they go forth and they win this war and they kill Sidious or they reveal Sidious, they can then decide how to take that forward too. So you still have to keep your head on your shoulders there, and you still have to keep taking some sort of action. You can't be a passive in that, right? Like the Jedi, knowledge and defense, but that doesn't mean you sit back and just let people suffer. You still got to find the right way to go forward. And I think that's part of what I think, at least I'm taking from these episodes, and why Yoda wouldn't be, hey, we might be losing this. That doesn't mean you're not going to try to find a way to go forward and maybe win. Whatever that victory is, that actual literal victory.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I feel like Yoda has kind of had his horizons expanded. He's reconnected to what he wants it to be. He's reconnected with this war is not great. Even if we technically win, get a military victory, there's still going to have been so much pain and damage from it. And wow, we should have tried to find a way out of it. But I still have to see it through because people are hurting, and I need to stop a Sith Lord if I can. If I have my head on my shoulders and my heart in the right place, and I'm stopping him to defend others and not be lashing out in anger and hate. And I don't think we ever see that in Yoda. He's defending the Wookiees, right?
Yeah.
He's defending himself when he takes off Commander Gree and the other clone's head. He is trying to do the right thing when he is stopping Sidious. And I really feel like the battle with Sidious, like they are kind of evenly matched. And we even got a Star Wars counseling question a while back of like, well, why didn't Yoda just pop up and keep fighting or give himself 5 minutes and tell Bail to turn around? Like he almost had him, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like the idea is fighting more would just empower Sidious. What he wants is endless fight. He always wants somebody to be upset and angry and agitating because it fuels the dark side and makes him more powerful. And I think the fact that Yoda recognized that and accepted it is better to disappear because this is what he wants. He wants to just keep fighting. I feel like that choice that he makes in Revenge of the Sith with this new horizon, that this isn't the only battle, that there's this much larger looking toward the future that needs to happen, that helps him step away from the battle instead of just keep fighting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when he kind of slumps his shoulders and talks about failing and going into hiding, it is not necessarily about that fight, right? It is about the journey to that point thus far. Yep. And look, you got to choose hope, right? That's the idea. And even Kenobi's going to Mustafar or at least chasing Anakin with what we hope is a shred of hope. And that's what hopefully we'll deal with in an upcoming Disney Plus series about what happens when he fails on two fronts. Doesn't save Anakin and doesn't kill Vader, but you still have to take action. You can't just sit in the water going, "I'm drowning." I wish you don't worry, we're gonna be helped, and then boats pass you by.
Exactly. So we will wrap up this extra size episode of the Clone Wars with talking about merch. Ken, if you could have merch or an action figure, anything from this arc, who or what do you want?
Is there? We don't have a Force Priestess's Halloween set, right? Do we? Like 5 robes that you, me, Jennifer, 2 other folks can wear? Maybe go to Star Wars Celebration? No? I'm sure people have done them on their own, but I think we need officially licensed Force Priestess's costumes.
I think we need a whole big Force Priestesses merch push. We need a costume, certainly. I kept thinking of a baby mobile for above the crib, just circling around. I think that would be lovely. Yeah. You got anything else?
Well, we definitely need Dark Yoda Funko Pop, right? We don't have that? I'm shocked we don't have that.
Yeah, it needs to come with like actual ability to smoke. Like it's got a little, device attached to it where you can pump out that black smoke. I definitely want a Yoda and Shadow Yoda action figure 2-pack of any kind. And then also for Halloween, I would like to purchase for my lawn a large display of Darth Sidious with cauldron and knife. just to sit on the lawn and scare kids.
Yeah, that'd work.
All right. Next up, we've reached season 6. We are going to talk about the graphic novel, the comic book short run, The Son of Dathomir, great story of Maul, the Mandalorian's mother Talzin, and lots of other great stuff. Then we're probably going to take a short break for the Kenobi series to focus on that. And we'll be back as we begin to wrap up the Clone Wars report. Ken, what should the moral of this episode of our podcast be?
The moral of this episode is go into the dark cave of your podcast and face all of your fears, your hubris, and all the things that are blocking you from succeeding. And then define what is succeeding for your podcast. It's deep, but it's simple.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. And then question your podcast. Examine your podcast.
Question your podcast.
Make sure your podcast is not falling into hubris, or at least try. Where can people find us?
I always say that the most dangerous thing is to believe your own hype, and I try to cut myself off at the knees every day. Hey, we are the Force Center podcast feed. You can find us on Twitter at Force Center Pod. We're on Instagram and YouTube as well. Check that YouTube channel. We do live YouTube Q&A shows once a month. And then we can also be found on Facebook at Force Center Podcast. You can audiobook on us by going to audibletrial.com/Force Center, merch available at tpublic.com/user/Force Center. Podcasts available in a lot of different spots like Acast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Just search, you'll find us, and you can support us directly by going to patreon.com/Force Center. We always love having new people join in. And from there, you can get into our Discord, a nice community of Force Center friends. You can follow me at Cadnapsuck. Go to my website, cadnapsuck.com, for more information on things I do, including Big Comedy Show on June 4th, if you're in SoCal, at Doug Weston's Troubadour, legendary music venue. I'm going to be slinging some jokes there like Elton John in the 70s. No? Maybe. We'll see. Find out. Go to the website for more. Joseph, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on all the social media. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok is at Joseph Scrimshaw, and you can check out my website for all my other comedy adventures. That is josephscrimshaw.com. But for now, for myself, for Ken, for Yoda's Light Side brochure, this has been the Clone Wars Report.